So you all send me stuff in a shocking turn of events. People will send me jokes. People will send me blessings. People will send me stories. People will send me recipes. And so earlier this week, Marie, one of our congregants, sent me was going through one of her own life challenges. And Marie, I think you're with us on Zoom, and we send you our spirit and strength tonight on this Shabbat. And she had found a story from Martin Buber, who's one of the great German European philosophers of the 19th and 20th century. And he's the one who did the I Thou theology, just an amazing theologian and also teacher. And so here is the story from Martin Buber. A rabbi was asked by one of his students, why did God create atheists? Okay? You all good so far? Any atheists here? Anyone want to claim to be an atheist? It's good. It's curious to see where this turns out. After a long pause, the rabbi finally responded with a soft but sincere voice. God created atheists, he said, to teach us the most important lesson of them all, the lesson of true compassion. You see, when an atheist performs an act of charity, visits someone who's sick, helps someone in need, and cares for the world, that person is doing so is not doing it because of some religious teaching. He doesn't believe that God commanded him to perform this act. In fact, he doesn't believe in God at all. So his actions are based on his sense of morality. Look at the kindness he bestows on others simply because he feels it's right. When someone reaches out to you for help, you should never say, I'll pray that God will help you. Instead, for that moment, you should become an atheist, he says. Imagine there is no God who can help and say, I will help you. Absolutely beautiful. As he's going back and forth between theists and atheists, what compels us to do things and what do they mean and how do we do it? So I saw that story and then I was thinking about what I wanted to say, because I will freely admit this week is not just Parshat Tzav, which we'll read tomorrow, but it is also Parshat Parah. And does anyone know what Parshat Parah is, or Shabbat Parah is? If I said the Parah Adumah, if I said the red heifer, anyone? No? Okay, so there is a description in Leviticus where you're supposed to take a pure red calf and you are supposed to sacrifice it. You are supposed to burn it into ash, and then you take the ash and you mix it with water. And then that water is the water of lustration that you use all kinds of different things, especially for bodily purity when you come in contact with someone who has died. So remember that in Judaism, when you come into contact with somebody that has died, or a creepy crawly thing, or a bodily fluid, you become impure. It's a physical kind of thing, but it impacts you spiritually, and you are supposed to do rituals of purification, like washing in this water of lustration, because nothing says purity like some good ashy water, and in order to make that transition from unclean to clean. Okay? So here we have this really visceral, funky, powerful ritual we are supposed to do for this very physical part of our spirituality and our tradition. And here I am saying, a room full of people, have any of you ever heard of the water of lustration? Have any of you heard of Parah Adumah, of the red heifer? And none of you have. This ritual is so out there in the world of Jewish ritual, none of you have heard it before. And so when we hear it, what are we supposed to do with it? And then, of course, Martin Buber says, maybe you should go ask an atheist. Just saying. Did I get a I think I got a over there. But wait, when I saw that, I was like, where do I go? Because here we have lots of funky, visceral, powerful, strange, what? Rituals in Jewish life. Shlag Kaporis. Does anyone know what Shlag Kaporis is? Oh, come on, Harold. What's Shlag Kaporis? You don't know, Steve? It's the sweet chicken swingy one where you put your sins into the chicken and then you shek the chicken. Okay? No? Okay? The feather, if you read the scroll which just came out earlier today, you would know about the going around your house and sweeping up the crumbs with the candle and then burning them and giving away your chametz, right? We have a lot of these different rituals, and so it's like, what? Here we have this beautiful teaching from Martin Buber saying, when we do it, how do you just do it with your full self, not worrying whether God commanded you? And I'm looking at this special Shabbat of Shabbat Parah, and I came across a rabbinic story from one of my colleagues, Rabbi Vered Harris. She is out in the Midwest, and she shared a midrash. And the midrash, after reading Martin Buber, was like, wait, these two stories, they connect in such an interesting way. The story is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai here. Sheldon, I get a Yochanan ben Zakkai story in for you. He was once asked by a heathen, I don't know what the Hebrew word is there, it could be all kinds of different things, but he's asked by somebody who is not Jewish. He said, these rituals, okay, and by the way, they're talking about the water of lustration, this water purification ritual. The non-Jewish person said, these rituals seem like witchcraft. You bring a heifer, you burn it, you use its ashes to purify someone defiled by contacts with a corpse. Wait, what's the burned up ashes of a heifer? It's a corpse. So you're using corpse ashes to clean yourself from coming in contact with a... Yes, Jerry, good. Yeah, Jerry's like, wait, what? Okay. Everyone who's got a fireplace is just, they're going to be shaking their head after this. Okay, so Rabbi Yochanan asks the non-Jew, what do you do for a person possessed by a demon? And the non-Jewish says, we bring roots, we make them smoke beneath them, and we pour water so the demon flees. They steam him out. Rabbi Yochanan says, in his very rational way, listen to yourself. The spirit of defilement for us is the same as your demon is for you. We cannot prevent it from inhabiting us, but it can be exorcised. They sprinkle purifying waters upon him mixed with the ashes of the red heifer, and the impure spirit flees. The non-Jewish person left, and Rabbi Yochanan's students challenged his answer. Okay? So he says, look, you have the same kind of ritual. You call it a demon, we call it impurity. We use smoke and ash, and this is the way that we get that transition from death to life again. But the students, they are not happy with this answer. And so he gave them another answer. It gets better. He told them, a dead person doesn't make things impure, and the water doesn't make things pure. Okay? So touching the dead person doesn't somehow make you impure, but it makes us impure, and somehow pouring the water with ash doesn't actually clean you, but it makes you pure. He said, get this, rather, God said, I made this a rule, I decreed a decree, and you don't have permission to decree what I decree. That's the rule of the Torah. So what does Yochanan tell his students? Do it. God said so. I am just curious. I look out to all of you as we're talking about these rituals. I am curious, how many of you might be in the atheist camp? How many of you are in the God said so camp? Some of you are in, and it's interesting, there's two different approaches to ritual with both of these scenarios. One of them is called sympathetic magic. Have you ever heard that? Has any of you ever heard that term before? Sympathetic magic is if I say the right words and do the right incantation and make the right kind of action, then that will force magic god, the force, to do what I want it to do. Okay? As a note, I prayed really hard and the Gators still lost in the March Madness tournament. Okay? That's sympathetic magic for you. But then again, I've said prayers of rain and it's rained on this very spot. That's sympathetic magic. The other way, and it's the same words, it's the same action, but it's a different way of thinking about it, is called symbolic action. That I do different things that are symbolic of what I want it to happen in the world, and I don't actually control out there, but I do control in here. Okay? You will hear, if you have been around me long enough, you will hear me joke that I have said prayers for rain and it has rained. Okay? Raise your hand if you have witnessed that work for me. It is so strange. Okay? I don't actually claim to be doing sympathetic magic, but it must be an awful cool coincidence. I once did, one of the first years I was here, I was doing a Miriam's Cup ritual at this bima. Miriam's Cup, remember Miriam was the one who brought the water in the wilderness to the people of Israel. I was doing a ritual for Lara and Kim Gould's Benot Mitzvah, and I'm doing it, and it was raining outside, and the roof started leaking and dripped on the podium in front of me. That was cool, right? What symbolic action would say is, I didn't cause the rain to fall in the building, but because we're sitting here doing a water ritual, we sure noticed. It changed how, not changed the world, but it changed how I look at the world, how I react to the world, how I respond to the world, very much like that atheist doing things because that person wants to make an impact in the world. It's coming from here out, not from out in. So here we've got this, and by the way, I told a few of you I promised a dirty sermon tonight, and I want to deliver. Helene, I said, Helene, this is your fault. Okay? Do you all know what this is? This is soil from Israel. From where? This is not from the wall, but it's close by. It's on the other side of the valley. This is from the Mount of Olives. And what's on the Mount of Olives? Not olive trees, but that's a good guess. Okay? A cemetery. The whole mountainside is a cemetery because Jewish tradition teaches that the Messiah, when the Messiah comes into Jerusalem, will go by the Mount of Olives first on the way into Jerusalem, so those people would get resurrected first. Hence, here I'm standing in the United States of America holding a packet of dirt, of soil, of earth from the Mount of Olives. And if you've been to a burial in a cemetery, you will know that we pour this sand into the casket or into the grave. But when we do that physical act, am I doing it because God said so? Am I doing it because I am connecting in my mind across the generations and saying the land of our ancestors where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel are buried? I want to connect that place to this place as I am burying a loved one, someone that I care about. Is it something in between? Is there somebody that says, it's dirt, Rabbi? There's lots of dirt, Rabbi. Why would we bother to put that in? Think of here I'll even go further. Think about the carbon footprint. We got plastic. You're shipping dirt. What's going to happen if the Mount of Olives is going to disappear at some point because all that's going to be left is graves there, because what's going to happen? The mountain's going to disappear because they've sent it all to America in little packets. So I look out to you and I share this with you because this is a Shabbat where we have one of these rituals that is visceral, that is strange, that is out there, that doesn't seem to make sense and is very paradoxical and contradictory. If it's paradoxical and contradictory at the same time, that's a lot. And I share these two stories of why in Judaism, why do we do these rituals? And I say this to you because it's really important in Jewish life. There is a lot of ritual in Jewish life. physical actions we do. Why? Because it's really easy to get stuck in here and really easy to get stuck in there, to think a lot. How often have we said, oh, I give you my prayers and my, when something bad happens, we send our prayers and our blessings and prayers, thoughts and prayers, right? And how often have we said, well, we can't really do a whole lot with thoughts and prayers? What does Judaism give us? Judaism gives us actions and physical objects and actions that we can do. And the reason I share that with you, and everything from why does an atheist, Martin Buber, a theologian, saying we should become atheists as we do these ritual actions, to God said so. There's something powerful in both of those, from everything in between, when we come to these actions. And I challenge you with two different things on this Shabbat. And the wisdom really comes from Josh Molina. How many of you like latkes? Okay, lots of latkes. Latkes are easy compared to this stuff. Josh Molina was being interviewed on the podcast Home Cooking by Rishi Samin Nosrat and Rishi Hirschaway, a musician and a chef. And he was talking about latkes, and he said, that's the best. I'm going to give you the direct quote. Okay? He said, also, in great Jewish tradition of doing something and then figuring out what it means. Okay? He was in the pandemic. His kids were home. They were locked down. They're running out of groceries. What do they have left? Eggs, potatoes, and onions, and some matzah meal. Oh, wait a second. We can make latkes. If you're the Maccabees and you've been fighting the Greeks for 3 years and you're stuck in caves, what do you make? They didn't actually make latkes, so they didn't have potatoes yet because those were still in the New World. Just checking. They didn't have Hamantashen. Okay. What does he say? You do something and then you figure out what it means. My challenge to all of us is both the doing and the why. So often we say, I'm not going to do that, or we don't think to do that, or don't know how to do that, or we're intimidated by the doing that, and so we don't do that. If you don't ever take the action, then it won't work for you. If you think about doing push-ups, you will not make your body holier or healthier. I meant to say healthier, but you can see the holier, right? You actually have to do the action. But both Buber's story and Yochanan ben Zakkai's story say, don't stop with the doing. Ask the question, why? What is the story I'm telling? What is the theology I'm doing? What is the value that I'm living out? What am I doing, and why am I doing it, and who am I doing it with? It's got to be the keva and the kavanah. It has to be the doing it and the intention behind it working together. There are so many rituals, and I am the first one to say, Judaism is a means, not an end. We're not going to do all of the rituals, but we each have to find the ones and work and experiment and try and think about and look for different ones and then ask why. And so as you hear about strange rituals, as you hear about contradictory and paradoxical and visceral rituals in Jewish life, some of it you're going to go, not for me, but think about it, take a chance. But when you do the rituals, even the ones that are familiar to you, like lighting the candles or eating the challah or baking the latkes, also take a moment to ask the question, why am I doing this? Who did I learn it from? Who do I get to share it with? By doing and asking and considering and bringing that into the world, those are some of the most powerful ways that we can bring shalom. Amen.